Hi, Bookish Friends. My name is Alyssa, and I am here with a bit of a Halloween haul. I have tons of books that I've been collecting for spooky season that I'm super excited to feature on this episode. Since Halloween is right around the corner when this episode comes out, it should be Halloween. So I'm excited to share some of my top picks for Halloween books. So I'm talking romance, spooky, anthologies, ghosts, wolves, vampires, etc. So I have like so many books to recommend. So let's just go through them. I have a few books that I've recently read. I have a few books that I plan on reading this spooky season. This is midnight, so get a cozy drink and tune in for stories and spoilers because this episode is going to be very spooky, romantic, creepy, fun, and cozy. So please add these books to your TBR. I will have them all listed in the show notes below. And let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, I have to touch on Layla Sage's Soul Searching. This book follows a character who recently lost her ability to hear ghosts, and there's just a lot going on. She's going back to her hometown, and she stays with this guy. He works on like wood, he's a carpenter, and long story short, there's ghosts all over his business. He also lives upstairs, she lives upstairs as well. They end up kind of beginning to slowly fall in love and learn about each other. It's a very slow burn. It is so good. I really enjoyed this author's series from the Rebel Blue. It was like very much like a cowboy romance. Each book was like a different sibling. But in this one, this is a new book in a series. It's completely independent of that. The cover is a man and a woman in a sweet embrace under this moon, and there's a little haunted house behind them, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. So add this to your TBR. This is a contemporary romance with paranormal elements, small town, slow burn, definitely a bit of spice, but it is just wonderful. And that is Layla Sage's Soul Searching, which is so good. My next book that I want to recommend is also a paranormal romance, but this is definitely kind of going into the house of spice, and that is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Okay, I get that this has been all over social media. You're like, why did you pick this book? I picked this book because I recently listened to Bride as an audiobook through Everand. This is not an ad. I just really love it because you get three books a month instead of one with Audible, and I'm here for that. But I ended up listening to Bride. I loved it so much. Main character's name is Misery. She ends up having to get married to this wolf. It's a marriage of convenience. Um, there's humor in it. It's definitely a slow burn. You also, in the beginning of each chapter of Bride, you get a quote from the male love interest about like how he's feeling in that moment. But the rest of that chapter is from the female main character's perspective. So you'll get like a little snippet of his thoughts in the beginning, and then it's just like, is he currently feeling that way? Like, why is he not expressing this? It is just so good. So in Mate, we also have that element where the main character from book one, Misery, her best friend is the main character in Mate in book two. It's hard to talk about this book without giving spoilers because in book one, something really big happens, which ties into book two here in Mate. But if I had to give a brief non-spoiler description, Misery's best friend ends up with someone who she didn't expect. And she's not really sure about her childhood, about a majority of her life, like where she came from. And by being with this person, she's able to kind of investigate that more. There's a bit of a mystery here. It's definitely like fated, but at the same time, like there's rules linked to their relationship and reasons why they can't be together. So it's a little bit forbidden. This is a werewolf romance, a forbidden romance. It's steamy as heck, but it doesn't get steamy until like the 75% mark. So if you do like a bit of a slow burn and great banter and humor, you're really gonna love Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I do recommend reading Bride first because it ties really well together. But this book was just absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it. And on the spice level, this is definitely a spicy and extra hot cappuccino. You know, there's a plot, but woo, this is very spicy and it's absolutely amazing. All I'm going to say is not. If you do not know what that is, you are going to discover what that is. So this is absolutely amazing. Okay, We're going to move on to the next book, which is a book I recently got to interview the author with my friend Calissa from Busy Reading Romantasy, and that is A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. This book is an enemies to lovers plus vampires set in Mexico. So if you really, really liked that element of like Jasper from Twilight without the Confederate bullshit, and you really, really wanted to get a little bit of his background story with Alice, this to me is like a wink to that. It is independent of that, but the main character in this book deeply reminded me of Jasper and how he didn't want to feed, how he had a lot of like inner turmoil. This was absolutely amazing. So this story follows a main character who's trying to get revenge for his parents who were killed by vampires. He tries to track down the vampire who killed his parents, and he ends up getting turned. And then you end up getting another perspective of a girl who's part of a vampire slaying family, and the town she lives in is getting constantly bombarded and attacked by vampires. And she is trying to kind of step into the footprints, I guess, of her family, trying to become a vampire slayer, but her father is against it, and there's reasons why. So there's a bit of a mystery in the story about like where did the vampires come from. It's very much a curse. He's trying to cure his vampirism. She doesn't trust him. They end up having to kind of work together. It's dual POV. It is a slow burn. Like I said, enemies to lovers. If you like this concept of like, you cannot die, I will kill you, like the energy of like dagger to your throat, like are they gonna kiss right now? That is the energy of A Cruel Thirst. I flew through this book. I ended up loving both characters. Angela is so creative, and the way that she writes romantasy and banter, and her characters, they're so sympathetic and you deeply care for them. There are elements in this book as well of grief. And throughout the story, you also get like mixed media where you find like newspaper clippings from the main character and how he's a big reader. He's trying to investigate where vampires came from. So you get to find and like read the newspaper clippings, the journal entries, the diary entries from people who've had relatives turned into vampires. So that was absolutely amazing. This is one of my favorite books of the year. This is A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montoya. Wonderful. Okay. Next book on here that I want to mention is a romantasy. This is by an independent author, and this is by Evelyn Shine. This is The Librarian's Gargoyle. This one is sapphic. It is a monster romance, and it is pretty short. I flew through this in a night. So this follows a main character who has magical ballerina shoes, and she's able to kind of like hop from building to building Spider-Man style. And she talks to this gargoyle since she was a kid all the time. Like she tells the gargoyle about her life and her loneliness. This is set in Paris in like I think the 1920s. Don't quote me on that. And she also works at a library, but she works in a time where women are expected to get married, and she doesn't want to. And long story short, the gargoyle ends up being able to turn into like a human for a day, because the person who created them is like, hey, I need you to go to the library and get this for me. And they end up bumping into the girl who's been talking to them all this time. They couldn't move before, but they can move now. And you get to kind of discover their love story. There are these like demon entities that are like chasing her down, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. It is so, so good. There is spice. I'm so sorry. I think I have like a cat hair on me. There is spice, but it does happen later on in the story. This monster romance is absolutely adorable, and I will read anything that Evelyn Shine writes. So this is the Librarian's Gargoyle. It's so, so cute. Okay. I'm sorry, I have a cat, so his fur is like constantly everywhere. All right, next book is a book I'm actually planning on reading, but I had a book on my TBR that was like pretty much like Scream. I was looking for a book that gave me the same energy as Scream, and my friend, I had it on my wish list, and she got it for me. And this is Your Lonely Nights Are Over by Adam Sass. I know this has queer rep. I know this is set in a high school, so it's young adult, and I know that this is also a murder whodunit. So I'm going to read the inside of the book to describe it a little bit more. I'm super excited to read this, by the way. Like I said, I've been looking for a book that's like Scream, but with more queer rap. Deary and Cole are inseparable and unlikable, and in bad luck for them, totally unbelievable. From the day they met, Deary and Cole have been two against the world. But whenever something bad happens at Stone Grove High School, they get blamed. Why? They're beautiful, flirtatious, and dangerously clever queen bees, and they're always ready to call out their fellow students, but they've never faced a bigger threat than surviving senior year, when Mr. Sandman, a famous never-caught serial killer, emerges from a long retirement, and his hunting ground is their school's queer club. Absolutely not. As evidence and bodies begin to pile up and suspicion points at Deary and Cole, they will have to do whatever it takes to uncover the real killer before they and the rest of the queer club are taken down. But they're not getting away from the killer without a fight. Along the way, they must confront dark truths hidden beneath the surface of their small desert community. When the odds are stacked against them and every flop they know is a suspect, can Deary and Cole take down Mr. Sandman before it's too late, or will their lonely nights soon be over? And that is Your Lonely Nights Are Over by Adam Sass. I am so excited to read this. The cover is two friends, and they are covered in wounds, and they just look shocked and spooked, and they are definitely serving face. Okay, I'm so sorry. They look, I love the character art, so I'm super excited to read this one. Let me know if you want an episode about it. If you want it non-spoiler, spoiler, let me know. Okay, next book on my TBR Spooky Spooky that I have not read, and I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around a little bit. I'm so excited to read this one, and that is House of Rain by Holly LaRoe. So in this book, it I have to say, I did partially get it because my friends rave about this author all the time. I am constantly searching for a like sapphic gothic story with paranormal elements. That's like my favorite tropes, and I was highly recommended this one. So of course, I had to get it. The edges as well have a lighthouse, which for anyone who knows me, I am a huge fan of anything nautical. Lighthouses are very symbolic of safety and consistency and just endless beauty, and I absolutely love them. So this was like a sign for me. So I had to get it. So the back says, once the island has you, it won't let you go. So let's read the inside. A night of forbidden passion opens a Pandora's box of dangerous secrets and a dark magic on a remote island. Salem. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be marrying my fiance, looking forward to a honeymoon. Instead, I found myself on a ferry headed for historical Balfour Manor on Blackridge Island in the Pacific Northwest, and now I'm stranded with Rain, a woman I'm irresistibly drawn to. Rain holds secrets as dark and mysterious as her old house. Crimson shadows stalk the halls and strange voices call out at night, but it's she who haunts her the most. Following a gruesome murder, the island's true nature is revealed, and every night becomes a fight for survival. Something is stalking the forest, killing indiscriminately, and this time we are its prey. Rain. Death has followed me since childhood. My mother's murder and my father's violent death changed me, teaching me just how cruel the world can be. I never got what I wanted until Salem showed up at my door. She is adventurous, beautiful, and doomed if she stays here. Now I suddenly have something to lose, the woman who broke my walls and saw through my mask and who showed me that I am worth loving. My family has long been buried, but even the vilest of secrets must be dug up again to survive the evil that haunts us. I finally have something to fight for, and I'll do whatever it takes to save her. And that is House of Rain by Harley LaRoe. Oh, I was so excited to read this. Oh my gosh. Also, I know this book has spice. I was told this book had spice. So keep that in mind. But I cannot wait to read this one. So on to my spooky TBR. Okay, next book on my spooky TBR is Blood Moon by Brittany Lewis. I was told this book, okay, is giving the Vampire Diaries meets Twilight with black leads. It's a debut, so I'm super excited to read that. This book, I actually got my copy from Jay's house. They are half bookshop, half bakery. They're so cool. I'm an ambassador with them. So check out their book boxes because they always do two books, two hardcovers, and then they put like teas and sweets and things like that inside. And they're just absolutely amazing. This is also a sprayed edges version, so it's absolutely gorgeous. So let's hop into what this book is about. Okay. Mirabella Owens grew up with legends of wolves that traveled to her Midwestern town to protect humans from vampires, of a werewolf that fell in love with one of the undead, unrevealing a blood-soaked history. But Mira stopped believing in those fairy tales years ago. She stopped believing in a lot of things after her mom left out a trace when she was only 13. As Mira begins her freshman year at Lakeland University, she already had to leave the past behind her. Only the past isn't finished with her yet. Strange animal attacks are occurring around the campus, reopening cold cases tied to her mother's disappearance. And the only person who seems to know anything is Julian Santos, the boy who is hell bent on getting Mira to leave campus for reasons she can't begin to understand. But Mira refuses to let him keep her secrets, not when the truth is the difference between life and death. Mira will have to accept that there is so much more to the old town myths and her growing feelings for Julian that she ever could have anticipated. And as the blood moon rises, she will come to know a world that will either shatter her past or change her future. And that is Blood Moon by Brittany Lewis. I am a huge fan of the Vampire Diaries, so I have high hopes for this book. The cover is a pomegranate with blood dripping down it and red flowers, and it looks wonderful. So you had me the Vampire Diaries, all right? You had me Bonnie, okay? So the next book that I am beyond excited to read is a little bit more of a summary vibe, but the reason I'm adding this to my Halloween TBR is because this comes from an author who literally his writing terrifies me, and that is Ryan LaSala's The Dead of Summer. I got this as a book box. I'm so grateful, and I want to talk a little bit about this because he does body horror really well and always has queer rep, which I'm a huge fan of in the horror genre and all genres. 2 days before, Ollie Veltman is finally coming home to the quaint island of Anchor Mercy after a year away while his mother battled cancer. It should be a celebration. His mother is cancer free and she's determined to have the best summer ever. But Ollie's now ex best friends think he abandoned them, and he's returning with a lot of questions. Because for a place that's perfect on the surface, a secret rots beneath the waves. A secret that could explain his mom's illness, the illness of so many locals. Always desperate to search for the truth, turns life or death when a storm ascends upon the island. In its wake, a long sunken horror rises. 3 weeks later, Ollie is being held in an isolation aboard a military hospital ship in the harbor. They say he's a survivor, but they only know half the story. The truth is more monstrous than Ollie ever believed, and he suspects his saviors aren't here to save anyone. Only Ollie can stop what's coming, but that means getting back to Anchor Mercy before it vanishes, taking with it everyone he has ever loved. And that is The Dead of Summer by Ryan LaSala. I read this author's book, The Honeys, also set around summertime, which had like cults, honey, kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Like if you've ever been scared during summer camp and you hear like a crack in the woods or like you see like mean girl groups, very much that energy, loss of mystery and queer representation. So he had me at the Honeys, and I'm gonna need all the books from now on. I'm also a little spooked by the ocean and like creature features, so I'm beyond excited to read this very soon. It made it on my Halloween list because the body horror. I know how good this author is at writing body horror, so I'm just beyond excited to read this. So that's a little bit of my Halloween TBR. So let's keep going through some books that I would recommend for Halloween. So you want Black Sapphic Vampires, Urban Romance. I recently interviewed this author and she is so sweet. And this is Monique Goode's The Cure of Us. So this book is incredibly short. It's book one in a series, the Blood Money series. So this book, without giving away too much, it has secret vampire societies, it has longing, it has two people from different sides of this really complex society having to team up. And there's longing, there's sex, there's vampirism. If you like the vibes and the energy of Interview with a Vampire, but you wanted a little bit more oomph, this book has it. So let's read the back of this book real quick. A sapphic urban paranormal romance that will pull at you and your heartstrings. In Eastbourne Hills, where power and secrets collide, Sage Washington must prove herself to her father, a formidable cartel kingpin. A high-stakes mission brings her into the orbit of Portia Denzel, the reckless daughter of the Vampire Society's chief elder. Bound by a fragile alliance between their families, Sage and Portia forge an unexpected connection that could shatter the delicate truths holding their worlds together. Can they heal from their past and defy the forces pulling them apart, or will the bond become the ultimate risk? Monique Goode writes longing so well, and this world felt incredibly fleshed out. I could almost feel the same sense of like if you're a big fan of like Underworld, you really like the world building and the characters from Interview with a Vampire. If you also want a little bit of the energy of P Valley, this book has it all, and it is absolutely amazing. If you want to hear a little bit more about the inspiration behind this story, check out our interview on YouTube and Spotify because Monique is thebomb.com. She's amazing. Okay. So, next book that I want to mention is a bit of a haunted house story. You're going to see how much I love a good haunted house. This also has really cool mixed media. There's an element of police interviewing the main character, and you get to hear a little bit about the story from her perspective through these interviews. And that is A Pocket Full of Teeth by Amy Hardy. This is a book that I am so excited to read this autumn. It is just going to fit that spooky energy. The cover is a large mansion bathed in like a reddish light, and someone is standing in one of the windows in the darkness, and it's just super spooky. So let's read a little bit about this book. The police have questions for Eddie Sparrow, questions about a body found at the bottom of the well. As Eddie answers the police questions, she mentions a mysterious manuscript hidden in her recently deceased mother's desk drawer. The manuscript is about a young girl named Kat who returns home after her own mother's death. As Eddie reads Kat's story, her own secrets emerge, and she begins to experience a strange phenomena: wet footprints, phantom phone calls, and nightmares. But a book can't be haunted, can it? As her life unravels, Eddie realizes that her story is inextricably connected to Kat's. But can she come to terms with the secrets haunting her, or will they continue to consume her until there is nothing left? I am so, so excited to read A Pocket Full of Teeth by Amy Hardy. This book pulled me in right away from the first page. And that is one of my favorite parts of reading is when the first page of a book, honestly, the first line, if it can pull you in right away, you got me hook, line, and sinker. I have been in my horror bag. Yes, I do read horror during the day. And if it's a super good book, I will read it at night. But my heart is just pulled in by the complexities of horror and how horror presents a lot of authors of color, characters of color, LGBTQIA plus characters. I just feel so seen in the horror genre. It has become one of my favorites ever this year. And I'm just beyond excited to read Pocket Full of Teeth. So who knows? Maybe I'll even interview the author one day. Fingers crossed. I always want to talk to these authors because they're geniuses. Okay, next book. I have become a fangirl. I am not afraid to admit it. And that is Rachel Harrison's So Thirsty. I recently read Play Nice. I read Cackle a few days later. I'm on a roll, baby, and I want to read all of her books. So this one is vampires. Rachel Harrison is known for writing feminism, creature features, horror, suspense. Her books have it all. And her writing is so hard to describe, but it is just amazing. It's prickly yet sweet. And you won't even realize it. By the time you reach the end of the book, you'll want more. And I've experienced that with Play Nice. I experienced that with Cackle. So oddly enough, I'm kind of working backwards. I am not reading her books in the way that she originally wrote them. I'm kind of bouncing from book to book. But this book, I'm so excited to read because Cackle stole my heart, Play Nice haunted me, and now I'm ready to hop into a tale about vampires and friendship. So let's hear a little bit about So Thirsty. I'm currently reading it right now, so let me know if you want an episode about it. Salone Parker is dreading her birthday. She does not need a reminder she's getting older or that she's feeling indifferent about her own life. Her husband surprises her with a birthday weekend getaway. Not with him, but with Salone's longtime best friend, troublemaker, and extraordinaire, Naomi. Salone anticipates a weekend of wine tastings in cozy robes and strategic avoidance of issues she'd rather not confront, such as her husband's repeated infidelity. But when they arrive at their rental cottage, it becomes clear Naomi has something else in mind. She wants Salone to stop letting things happen to her, for Salone to really live. So Naomi orchestrates a wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, only for it to take a horrifying turn that changes Salone and Naomi's lives forever. The friends are forced to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it may taste different than expected. A woman must learn to take life by the throat after a night that leads irrevocable changes in this juicy, thrilling novel from the US Today bestselling author of Such Sharp Teeth and Black Sheep. That is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I am currently reading this. I honestly was going to make notes for a deep dive episode, but I kind of like keeping my reviews vague about an author like this because one of the best parts of reading her books is not knowing what's going to happen next. So I'm probably going to do an entire episode about all of her books and how much I love them all. And I will make sure it is non-spoiler so you can enjoy them just as much as I am. And I got this book from, I believe it was Books a Million, thanks to my girlfriend. So absolutely loving it. And this is not the last book by Rachel Harrison on this list, y'all. Okay. I adore her. I mean it. So there's going to be more books on this list from her. So far, I have, I think, 3 of her books. So there's that. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. All right. I'm using my phone light because I need to get a ring light at some point. So I'm so sorry, y'all, for this weird lighting. Okay. So next book on this list is another author that I've had the chance to interview, and that is Celestine Martin. This is Witchful Thinking. So Witchful Thinking is a small town romance. This is contemporary romance. It is cute. It is sweet. It follows a witch. Each book in this series is one of her sisters who are also witches. And this is a girl who is a teacher, kind of trying to find herself and really challenge her life and kind of get out of her comfort zone. She ends up helping her high school sweetheart. His family recently got him a house, but it has a bit of a haunting and like kooky elements going on in it. So she's going to help him try to fix a bit of a vex on the house. And he is a merman and he's always used to being on the go and traveling. But he never really got over her. So this story is about him trying to find out what home feels like, her rediscovering who she is, and them kind of falling in love again. This story is very much giving me vibes of like practical magic with the magic system, but it also makes me feel so like cozy and comforted. So if you want a romance that's perfect for autumn vibes, for caramel apple sweetness, then I highly recommend Witchful Thinking by Celestine Martin. It is so cute. The writing is very floral and open and just feels like a warm hug. So I loved this book. It was so good. I would probably be rereading it in October, November. Okay, so we're going back into our horror genre. I love a good horror anthology as much as the next person. My favorite book of last year was a horror anthology. So it makes sense that I am currently listening to the audiobook. I'm also reading the physical copy of The White Guy Dies First, which is 13 Scary Stories About Fear and Power by authors of color. So the back pulled me in when I first saw it. It says, 13 scary stories, 13 authors of color, 13 times we survived the first kill. One thing about this book that hooked me right away, of course, I love a good short story. The audiobook, the sound quality is insane. Each story has a different like voice actor. The opening element of the story as well is also mixed media. So it appears when you're listening and you're reading the book, it sounds like it's coming from a blog post about someone who's looking for these like 13 haunted movies and the director went missing. And each haunted movie is actually one of these short stories from this book. So The White Guy Dies First is such a great horror anthology. It was edited by Terry J. Benton Walker, and I cannot wait to do a little non-spoiler review. It's hard to do reviews of anthologies, but your girl's gonna make it happen because this one is so good. Okay, so add it to your TBR, y'all. Okay, so I'm going to recommend my next 2 Rachel Harrison books. I currently, like I said, I own 3, but I am saving up to get the rest of her books. So fingers crossed, your girl's working hard. All right, the next book that I want to recommend from Rachel Harrison is Cackle. This book, the creature, the entity, is a witch. I use that term very loosely. This story follows a girl who went through a really crappy breakup recently. She ends up moving to a small town. She's a high school teacher and she's kind of struggling with people pleaser elements. She has a warped view of her previous relationship a little bit, and she ends up bumping into Sophie, who is a really magical, beautiful woman in this small town. Everyone is so nice to her. She gets everything for free. But of course, it's a bit of a catch. And this story has spiders and it has cozy elements in the town, but also creepy moments. And it really is a story that I felt was about finding yourself again, finding your voice, finding your inner power, while also truly encountering ghosts and ghouls and monsters and kind of deciding what you are willing to stand for. And it's such a good story. Yes, there's spooky moments, but in my opinion, this is one of the books by Rachel Harrison that I didn't really consider a horror. It had spooky moments, but it didn't feel horrific. And I liked that. The key element of the story really is the magic of friendship and healing and finding yourself after a really cruddy breakup. So super, super good. The next book I would consider a horror, probably spooky, spooky. I said I like haunted houses, and I meant it. And that is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This book is two timelines. It follows the main character who is the youngest out of three sisters, and she her mom recently passed away in the house that they grew up in. She didn't even know that her mom still had that house. They no longer speak. Her mom had substance abuse issues with alcohol, and unfortunately, they were not close. And she ends up deciding, because she's a social media girly, that she's going to go to the house and fix it up and make content and then eventually sell it. And her father is telling her, like, no, don't go back there. No. He's remarried. Her two older sisters are very aloof towards the mom. They don't have super great feelings towards her. And then the main character ends up finding half of a book that her mom had written way back in the day. And her mom truly did believe this house was haunted. The catch is that the family really thought that she was not mentally sound and they didn't believe her. And they thought she was very negligent. And it's a very complex story about that, but they really didn't believe the house was haunted. And as the main character goes back to fix up the house, she begins to kind of see things. It's very, very spooky, very scary. This book, I could not read at night. I could not. It was great. I just was scared. I was getting scared. And also, you get the perspective of the mom in the past because she wrote in the margins of the book for her daughter to read in the future. So you're getting to hear from the mom about what exactly she saw back then and how she's reflecting on that now prior to passing away about what she thinks she saw, what actually happened. Be aware the girls were very young at the time, so their memory and perception is different from the mom when she was an adult back then. So you get the perspective of the mom in like the 90s, and you get the perspective of the main character now in the same house. So it's very claustrophobic, super spooky. I feel like the core element of this story, besides a haunted or possessed house, is memory and how funky memory can be. The best movie I could compare to Play Nice to me is definitely like Eve's Bayou. The core of like memory and how you perceive what happened versus what really happened, and the relationship between moms and daughters, and the complexity of perception and power in the paranormal. It's chilling and it's heartbreaking at times, and it's an amazing book. I will never forget this story. So super spooky, and that is Play Nice. I highly recommend it. But like I said, do keep in mind parental loss and alcoholism. There's definitely trigger warnings in the story. Okay, the next book that I'm picking out is a dark academia, and it's a Carmilla retelling. I read this last year, and I probably will be rereading it because I love it so much. And that is S.T. Gibson's An Education in Malice. I tabbed up this book like crazy. I love it with all my heart. This follows the main character from the original Carmilla retelling, but it's set in modern day. They are on a college campus and they're in a poetry class with a beautiful and mysterious Carmilla, who in this story is actually human at first. You get to learn a little bit about who turns Carmilla. It's a story of obsession. It's a story of a mystery of a vampire on campus trying to find their lost lover. There is poetry as well. There's a class about poetry, and it's seductive and alluring. And this reminds me a lot of the Vampire Diaries in the sense of the diary entries and the way that in the essence of like Stefan falling in love with Elena for this first time, and then all consuming love and the doom at the end. This kind of reminds me a little bit of that in tone. It also teaches me a little bit about the vibes of like Jane Eyre, that sense of madness and like to love someone is to lose them, and like this perception of them. It was such an interesting story, and the sapphic elements in the story, it gave me the same sense of like I like just being consumed by someone's energy and just thinking about them all the time. And vampire tales to me are so unique because everyone writes vampires differently. And this was one of the most unique ways I've ever seen a Carmilla retelling. And I just absolutely loved it. So, An Education in Malice, wonderful, amazing, go in with an open mind. There is a bit of spice, but it's mostly yearning. And it's just beautifully written. So, yeah, that is An Education in Malice by S.T.Gibson. I also do plan on reading Dowry of Blood at some point. So I own it. I do plan on reading it. Okay. The next book I want to mention is actually a graphic novel. It is young adults and it's definitely giving superhero vibes. Okay. Anyone who was a Marvel fan back in the day, I promise you, you're going to love this book. And this is Hover Girls by Geneva Bowers. So this is a graphic novel. I'll show a little bit of the inside. It is absolutely gorgeous. Folks who are looking on YouTube, the inside is these beautiful panels in hues of white and red and orange and blue, and it's super amazing. So I'm going to read a little bit of the inside. I don't want to spoil it, but it's giving sci-fi energy. If you've ever wanted to be a superhero when you were a teenager, this book is for you. It is so cute. It's actually incredibly short and amazing. So let me read the inside for you. When a curious incident on the beach leaves the cousins with supernatural powers and monsters start attacking the city, Kim decides that using their powers to stop them is a perfect way to become famous. But being heroes isn't as easy as it sounds. The Los Aguados is in more danger than they can imagine. This beautifully illustrated and hilarious graphic novel begins as a webcomic. This edition features an expanded story and updated art, offering something for new and old fans alike. So it follows these two cousins. It does have a little bit, I think, of queer rep in it, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But it's mostly about friendship and the sci-fi elements are absolutely divine. So I just loved Hover Girls, and I will read anything from this offer from now on. So there's that. And then I want to add a few more books that I am currently reading or I'm planning on reading. So I'm currently listening to the audiobook and I am planning on continuing to read the physical copy, but I hope I can interview this author soon because she is amazing. And that is The Conjuring of America, Mojos, Mermaids, Medicine, and 400 Years of Black Women's Magic by Dr. Lindsey Stewart. This book called to me. I saw someone post about this on social media. I have always been really fascinated by the history of Black women and how we heal so many people, and also this element of magic and culture and the history that we aren't taught in schools. And education is a privilege, but sometimes it's limited by the way that we are perceived and how history is written and who writes history. And the first chapter of this book pulled me by my heart. And I had to have it. I can't wait to talk to Lindsey Stewart and have that on the podcast for you all because the way she writes is magnetic. So let's read a little bit about this story. A crucial telling of US history centering the Black woman whose magic gave rise to the rich tapestry of American culture we see today. From Vicks Vapor Rub and Aunt Jemima's pancake mix to the magic of Disney's The Little Mermaid in 2023 and all the American blue jean. Emerging first on plantations in the American South, enslaved conjure women used their magic to treat illness. These women, combined their ancestral spiritual beliefs from West Africa with local herbal rituals and therapeutic remedies to create conjure, forging a secret well of health and power hidden to their oppressors and many of the modern day staples we still enjoy. The Conjuring of America, Black feminist philosopher Lindsey Stewart exposes this vital contour of American history. In the face of slavery, necromammies fashioned a legacy of magic that begat herbal experts, fearsome water bearers, and the powerful mojos, roles, and traditions that for centuries have been passed down to respond to Black struggles in real time. And when Jim Crow was born, granny midwives and textile weavers leveled their techniques to protect our civil and reproductive rights, while candy ladies fed a generation of freedom crusaders. Sourcing firsthand accounts of the enslaved dispatches from the lore of Oshan and the wisdom of beloved Black women writers, Stewart indisputably that conjures information informs our lives in ways of remarkable and ordinary. Above all, The Conjuring of America is a love letter to the magic of Black women used to sow messages of rebellion, freedom, and hope. and that is The Conjuring of America by Dr. Lindsey Stewart. So this book is nonfiction, but it does have elements that link to spiritualism, religion, as well as history, and some history that you may not even know. So I'm so, so excited to read this, educate y'all selves, and check this book out because I'm already in love with it. So there's that. Okay. The next book that I want to mention is a book I got from Book of the Month this summer. I do plan on reading it. She's just a little bit chunky, but this is my first V.E. Schwab book. I know everyone is a huge fan of this author. I do plan on reading this book. It's just really big, but I do want to read it because it has everything I want. And that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. This is a vampire tale. It's 3 points of view, and I'm just so excited to read it. I know it's very gothic, and I'm excited. I'm just saying she's a bit chunky. She's a bit curvy. So I do want to read this. So let's read the description. Um, I like big books, y'all. I do. I like big books and I cannot lie. But I just need to pace myself because holding this book, she's a bit heavy. Okay, so what is this book about? This is a story about hunger. In 1532, Santo Domingo de la Calza, I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, a young girl grows up wild and wily. Her beauty is only outmatched by her dreams of escape. But Maria knows she can only ever be a prize or a pawn in the games played by men. When an alluring stranger offers an alternative path, Maria makes a desperate choice she vows to have no regrets. This is a story about love. In 1827 London, a young woman lives an idyllic but cloistered life on her family's estate until a moment of forbidden intimacy sees her shift off to London. Charlotte's tender heart and seemingly impossible wishes are swept away by an invitation from a beautiful widow, but the price of freedom is higher than she could have ever imagined. This is a story about rage. 2019 Boston. College was supposed to be her chance to be someone new, and that's why Alice moved halfway across the world, leaving her old life behind. But after an out of character one night stand leaves her questioning her past, present, and future, Alice throws herself into the hunt for answers and revenge. This is a story about life and how it ends and how it starts. And that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I cannot wait to read this book. I honestly heard there's another book that she recently wrote that I really want to read that is apparently Enemies to Lovers, and that's a male romance. That is a book I have my eye on. But so little time, so many books. Okay, on to the next book. I told you, I have more books by Rachel Harrison. And this is a werewolf book, and this is Such Sharp Teeth. I cannot wait to read this book. Like I said, I'm on a roll. I light up whenever I talk about her. Rachel Harrison, I'm a huge fan. But yes, let's talk a little bit about this one. Rory Morris isn't thrilled to be moving back to her hometown, even if it's only temporary. There are bad memories there, but her twin sister Scarlett is pregnant, estranged from the baby's father, and needs support. So Rory returns to the place she thought she'd put in her rear view. After a night out at a bar, she runs into an old almost flame and she hits a large animal with her car. And when she gets out to investigate, she's attacked. Rory survives miraculously, but life begins to look and feel different. She's naturally strong with an aversion to silver, and suddenly the moon has her in a thrall. She's changing into someone else, something else, maybe even a monster. But does that mean she's putting those close to her in danger? Or is embracing the wildness inside her the key to acceptance? This dark, comedic love story is brilliantly layered portrait of trauma, rage, and vulnerability. And that is Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. I cannot wait to read this one. Like I said, she had me hooked in Play Nice. She had my heart in Cackle. And she definitely has my interest in her vampire tale, So Thirsty. So let's see what happens with Such Sharp Teeth, because I do love a good wolfy tale. Okay, only like 4 more books left, y'all. I have so many. Okay, this book I got earlier this year. I've been meaning to read it. My girlfriend stole this copy, read it for a bit, so I recently got it back. And that is This Ravenous Fate. This copy is from Jay's house. So, like I said, they are the best of the best. This actually came with another book that has Black vampires, which we love to see. Okay, so This Ravenous Fate. Let's hear a little bit about this one. You sound afraid, Saint. Is it because of what happened 5 years ago? That was not personal. It was pure Reaper instinct. That is impossible to control when you are first turned. But your blood has always been my favorite, even after all these years. So that's the quote on the back of the book. Ooh. So I'm so excited to read this book because I heard it gives very much the elements of the 1920s, Black vampires and its enemies to lovers. Like, I don't want you, but I do. So let's hear a little bit about it. At night in Harlem, the jazz clubs come to life and death waits in the dark. In 1926, and reapers are growing stronger everywhere. Created centuries ago by cruel medical experiments, these once human vampires are driven to attack without mercy. Those who protect the city from their hold, more power than organized criminals who run nightclubs. As the reluctant heir to her father's Reaper hunting empire, Elise Saint knows that the Harlem Reapers want her dead. Among them is Layla Quinn, who lost her parents, the protection of the Saints, and her humanity the night she was turned into a Reaper. And she'll never forget how Elise Saint betrayed her. A wave of mysterious killings shocks the city, forcing Elise and Layla to work together to find out if some Reapers are turning human again or becoming even deadlier. As their investigation takes them from glittering parties to gangster underworlds, the two must confront their complicated feelings for each other. For a new kind of evil is on the rise, one that will destroy Reapers and humans alike if they don't stop it. And that is This Ravenous Fate. I cannot wait to read this. This is by Hayley Dennings. I've heard such wonderful things, and I was pulled into this concept of queerness and vampires from the Vampire Diaries, as well as, of course, Interview with a Vampire. But I wanted to see more Blackness, and I definitely wanted to see a lot more love for Black women. And I cannot wait to read this. It's giving me all the things that I want. So there's that. Okay. The next book that I really want to read actually came with This Ravenous Fate from Jay's house, and that is Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. I really hope I said their name wrong, right? I'm sorry if I said it wrong. The edges are sprayed and say, "No soul can enter without an invitation." And the back also has a quote, and I love seeing those on books. And it says, "Am I scaring you?" His voice rumbled like mountain rocks. "Do you want to leave?" The muscles of his shoulders tensed as if he was preparing for another blow. He was mistaking her accelerated heart rate for fear. She lifted her eyelashes to him and rested her hands over his. Ooh, okay, okay, say less. Okay, so what is this story about? A lost heiress, a soulless vampire, a secret drenched in blood. It began long before my time, but something has always haunted our family. Orphaned heiress Kinnan Adain grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire championship or companionship. I'm sorry. When her sister June disappears, Keaton is convinced a vampire stole her, the very vampire bound to their family and the cruel yet captivating Sinos Sagad. To find June, Keaton must infiltrate the elite Ulxley University, where she must survive living with Sensos, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. It doesn't matter that Senso's wickedness speaks to Keaton's own violent nature and tempts her to surrender to a life of darkness. She must find her sister and kill Sinos at all costs. When a murder mirroring June's disappearance shakes Uxley, Gideon sinks further into the ruthless underworld of vampires, risking her very soul. There she discovers a centuries-old threat, and June could be at the center of it. To save her sister, Gideon must bring Uxley to his knees and either break free from the horrors of her own actions or embrace the dark entanglements of love and the blood it requires. And this is a debut book. So Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. I cannot wait to read this. The cover is a hand wrapped around a golden university with blood dripping down it. So very gothic, very spooky. And it's definitely, once again, giving enemies to lovers and vampires, which I love to see. Okay. And the last two books on my Halloween TBR that I definitely want to read is probably going to be rolling into November. Is two books that I've actually had my eye on. Tenderly, I Am Devoured and Make Me a Monster. Tenderly, I Am Devoured by Lundall Clipstone. I actually won in a giveaway, so I'm so grateful. I heard an episode about this book from my friend's podcast, Must Love Books. She is so cool. So shout out to Crystal. You are amazing. She interviewed this author, and the interview pulled me in, and I was begging, searching for a giveaway, and I found it. So I'm so grateful. The cover is two statues embracing, wrapped in flowers and thorns. So let's hear a little bit about this book. Expelled from her prestigious boarding school following a violent incident, 18-year-old I'm so sorry if I said this name wrong. I'm really bad at saying in like unique names. Lacrimsa Ariskane returns home in disgrace to discover her family on the brink of financial ruin. Desperate to save them, she accepts a marriage of convenience to Theron, the chthonic god worshipped by the inhabitants of Lark's isolated coastal hometown. But when her betrothal goes horribly wrong, Lark begins to vanish from the mortal realm. Her only hope is to seek help from Alistair Felmath, the brilliant, arrogant boy who has her first heartbreak, and his alluring older sister Camille. Hmm. As the trio delves into the folklore of the gods, Lark falls under the spell of Felmath's siblings. Ensnared by the fervent romance, they perform a hedonistic ritual to repair the connection between Lark and her bridge groom. Instead, they draw the ire of something much darker, which seeks to destroy Theron and Lark as well. As time runs out and Lark's connection to mortal plane grows more tenuous, the only chance for Alistar, Camille, and Lark to undo the tangled web of their family's lies and legacy in Lark's bond with Theron, a bond that threatens to destroy her. So this definitely is giving Polly, and I am here for it, or Thruple. And I am here for this story because it's giving all the gothic longing that I love. It's giving curses. It's giving be careful what you wish for. And I really like seeing that in a book. So that is Tenderly I Am Devoured by Lundall Clipstone. Okay. And my last book on my Halloween TBR is a book I actually recently got with my girlfriend at Books a Million. I wanted this book so bad. I was waiting for it to come out. I did a pre-order and then I found it at Books a Million 2 days before it was going to come out. So you bet I grabbed that puppy so quick, so quick. And that is Make Me a Monster by Byron. This book called to me. Okay. I heard that it gives winks to gothic stories, a bit of Frankenstein, a bit of the monsters, the dead arising. And I just love those elements in the story. It also is a Black female main character. And you got me, girl. You got me. I'm here for that in any book. So let's hear a little bit about this story. Mika is used to death. After all, it's the family business. As a newly certified mortician's assistant at her parents' funeral home, her days are not for the faint of heart. Luckily, her boyfriend Noah isn't squeamish, and Mika is finally feeling ready to say those three little words that will change everything. But then tragedy strikes, and Mika's world is torn apart. Nothing makes sense, especially the strange things that are starting to happen. Ravens are circling her home. Strangers are following her, and someone is leaving mysterious items at her door. And worst of all, the dead don't seem to be staying dead. No. Mika thought she understood death better than anyone. It turns out the family business is a bit more complicated than it seems. And Mika is the only one desperate to unearth their secrets because the truth may be worth dying for. And that is Make Me a Monster. I cannot wait to read this. I'm like so pulled in. Why is this low key giving like Haunting of Hill House vibes? Also, I have to admit, like, I really, really love a story that has like, there's a family curse, like, there's a catch to these powers, it's a catch to what you're seeing. I just love that so much. I have another book by this author that I am planning on reading. So, this is my Halloween TBR, y'all. I can't even tell you how many books are in this TBR. The stack is massive. But thank you so much for listening to my little TBR. Please like this on YouTube and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a nice little rating. I hope you liked this and added some books to your TBR. And like I said, I'm so grateful to have you here. I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you again for listening.